Hi guys, and welcome back to CoZ NoAH! So, after all that suffering yesterday, I finally get to just focus on main story stuff. Or, well, roots now. Which are still technically main story. But, yep. For the record, I do not know whose roots are coming up ahead, so whoever they belong to, unless it's super obvious, will be a surprise to me. But I assume that this is probably going to be Yua. I, I kind of just have a sneaking suspicion that she's the one who wrote this. So, the answers I need for it's just a coincidence. No. I'm making it all up. It's all in my head. No. The new gen killer is somewhere in this school. I mean, no. The answer is actually no, but for this I have to answer yes. Whoever wrote this is trying to provoke me. I mean, yes, definitely. I should definitely erase it. Yes?
なあ、どうしたんだ？
Yep, it's Yua. She's the bitch who wrote this! That's what she wrote! Misumi-kun walked up to me, grabbed my shoulder, and gave me a good shake.
聞いてる？おーい、青く。
It must have just been a common phrase, or something. In other words, it was just a stupid, pointless scribble. I tried to tell myself that, but I still couldn't calm down. So, in the end, I just went up and erased it, moving quickly so that nobody would notice. Shibuya Station was a much different place in the early morning than it was later in the day. Young people were scarce, and countless businessmen, following a jarring ride on the crowded trains, rushed out of the station and scattered every which way into Shibuya. It was a place marked by indolence, yet engulfed by an air of restlessness. The students of Suimei Academy carried that with them as well. However, the number of them present was rather sparse. Shibuya Station was about 20 minutes away from Suimei by foot, and on top of that, part of the route was an uphill trek via Dogonzaka. Most Suimei students taking the train would depart at the stop nearest to the academy, Shinsen Station. Kusunoki Yua, meanwhile, took on the unnecessary risk of walking from Shibuya Station. Waking up early for this did not cause any headaches for her. The heart of Shibuya was often suffocatingly crowded, but as soon as one began the climb up Dogonzaka, the number of pedestrians dropped sharply. Taking the extra time to walk and breathe in the refreshing morning air was something Yua quite enjoyed. Part of the reason why she chose to walk from Shibuya Station was to see the news displayed on the jumbotrons above Scramble Crossing. As she waited for the pedestrian signal to change, Yua peered up at O-Front's jumbotron, just as she always did. And upon doing so, she gasped in shock. The captions running across the screen before her had her breath taken away. The headline read, "Third New Gen Incident." A certain boy's face rocketed to the forefront of her mind. A boy whom she did not know, nor had ever spoken with. But it was a face she had seen the previous morning at school, though for Yua, that was evidence enough to convince her that he was the true culprit behind New Gen. Yua could recall the events of the previous morning vividly. 7 a.m., Suimei Private Academy. Yua marched quickly through the empty halls. It seemed that no others had arrived yet. Her expression rigid, she gazed straight ahead without faltering. Without a hint of restraint in her stride, Yua advanced onward, stopping only once she arrived at a certain classroom. The sign which framed the room number read 2C. Following a quick gaze to confirm her destination, Yua slid the door open without hesitation. 2C was not her homeroom. As a third year, she should have had no reason to even set foot in there. Absolutely no reason at all. That was how it would be under normal circumstances, at least. But right then, she had a specific goal in mind. After methodically scanning the empty classroom, Yua approached the blackboard. She perused the selection of chalk colors for a brief moment, before picking up a pristine white piece. Then, using intentionally poor handwriting, she wrote a single sentence on the blackboard.
その目、誰の目?
She whispered the words to herself after writing them. Gently placing the chalk back down, she surveyed the room once more.
あなたはどんな反応をするのかしら?
Her whispers continued, for nobody to hear but herself.
何の反応もしない。それともこれを見て驚く。もしも慌てて消そうとするなら、それはつまり。
In the silence of the empty classroom, her intimidating voice echoed.
あなたが殺したっていう証拠よ。隠れて見ているか。私は見ているか。あなたは私の顔なんて全く知らないだろうけど、私は知ってるわ。知ってるの。あなたの顔を知ってる。だから私はあなたを見ている。
I guess the question is when she saw Takumi, and why the phrase means something to her.
黒板に書かれたこの文を見て、あなたがどんな態度を取るのか、ちゃんと見ておくから。ね、西條匠くん。
Yua forcefully bit her lip. After she had finished her task, Yua made her way up to the roof to kill time until the students of 2C finally arrived. Then, 10 minutes before the bell rang, Yua returned to the hallway. Peering in through the door, she kept an eye out for anyone who might react to her inscription of "Whose eyes are those eyes?" And just as she had predicted, a certain panicked schoolboy was the one to erase the words. One look at his face, and she could tell exactly who it was. Ishijo Takumi.
私は知ってるわ。知ってるの。あなたよ。あなたしかいない。
She muttered those words to herself, only for them to be drowned out by a speaker mimicking the sound of pigeons cooing. The pedestrian signal at the scramble had changed colors. The massive wave of pedestrians collectively ceased their standstill and began moving once more. However, Yua remained where she was, paying no heed to the possibility that she may be in the way of those trying to cross. She simply stood in place, focusing all her attention on the subtitles that appeared up on the Jumbotron. Kusunoki Yua was born with a twin sister. However, she had died 1 month ago. It had been ruled a suicide. The two were like a pair of couple necklaces, incomplete without one another. Their bond simply was not comparable to that of ordinary sisters. The shock of her death left Yua feeling as if she were only half the person she once was. Hint, hint, nudge, nudge. That was how much she adored her twin sister. When she heard the news, an endless waterfall of tears sprang forth from her eyes. She collapsed onto her sister's bed, desperately searching for the girl who had been living there until only yesterday. Why'd she have to die? Yua searched for any answer at all, but found none. It wasn't really suicide. She would never kill herself. Somebody must have murdered her. Those thoughts only fueled the flame of her grief. Maybe, Yua thought, maybe she left behind a message that nobody's found yet. Tormented by feelings of guilt, she began rummaging through her sister's possessions. And when she did, she found a single diary, and within it were the words: whose eyes are those eyes? 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 Whose eyes are the... Yeah, I'm not gonna bother. This was a clear cry for help from her sister. Even so, Yua had no idea what the phrase meant. With nothing to lose, she decided to search for it online. Among the results, she discovered a single essay. XX National Elementary School Writing Contest List of Winners. The Ministry of Education. Damn it, sorry, I forgot to turn off my notifications. Okay. We are here to honor the talent of the outstanding young people that are our future. We received over 2,731 applications from all over Japan this year. From these applicants, the National Elementary School Writing Contest sponsors, the Ministry of Education, and the Kaidoku newspaper. We have decided on the following winners. Grand Prize, title, A Raven's Hair. Yotsuhashi Harusada, Award of Excellence, Tea Thinner, Totsuga Gennai. Plastic Printing, Morote Miki, Caterpillars and Vampires, Hosokawa Kozo. Whose Eyes Are Those Eyes? Nishijo Takumi. Armpits, Honda Inobu. Well, that guy's got a fetish that's Winning Winners Winning. Usoki Izumi. Castereed. Matsui Genka. Chinyo. Matsuzu Basho. I was hoping one of them would be a name we knew or something. Among the results, she discovered a single essay, one that had been entered into the National Elementary School Writing Contest. It was a competition that had been held 6 years ago by the Ministry of Education, and the title of one of the winning essays was, Whose Eyes Are Those Eyes? Wait, there's more. There's more. Naughty People. Matsudaira Sadagi. Fruit in Bedtime. Chuya. The author's name was written beside the essay title. While the kanji could be read in multiple ways, the correct reading was clarified. Nishijo Takumi, a 5th grade elementary schooler at the time. However, that was where the trail went cold. She had no idea what connection Nishijo Takumi had with her sister's death. Then came an incredible coincidence. It was rather common for Yua to pass by Shoto Park on her way to school. And in that park, about twice a week, she would spot a lonesome schoolboy eating bread. As Yua observed him in his time of solitude, she somehow grew fond of seeing him. On her way to school one day, Yua happened to run into a friend of hers at the station. The two of them decided to walk together, eventually coming across the boy on the bench. Upon seeing him, her classmate spoke up.
あいつ、2年の西条っていう子らしいよ。弟が同じクラスでさ、引きこもりの肝オタなんだって。クスノキ、あんなやつに興味持つのやめときなよ。
Rude. Nishijo. The characters in his name would normally have been read as Saijo. For it to have been read as Nishijo was an anomaly. There was no way it was a mere coincidence. As soon as she could, Yua got her hands on the list of second-year Suime Academy students. And there it was, that name. Nishijo Takumi. Still, the shared name would not stand on its own as decisive evidence. It, too, could merely be coincidental. So, Yua decided to put her theory to the test. Whose eyes are those eyes? She wrote those words on the blackboard and watched as he trembled in fear. That was not the end of it either. Leaked eyewitness reports from the crucifixion incident, which claimed the Suime Academy student was spotted fleeing the scene, exploded across the internet. Yua had all the evidence she needed. Nishijo Takumi was a suspect, and he very well could have been the one who had murdered her sister. Okay. This is a background we have literally never seen before, so I'm gonna assume this is new content. I have no idea why it made me sit through all that stuff before. It is kind of funny to think that Suwa, when he was calling Bon, was reporting the murder that he himself had committed. Self-report! That, yeah. It said the victims were torn apart and then stitched back together. Then had their lower half stitched back together, so I guess it was me who was jumping the gun. I assumed they were talking about, like, they had been like sliced in half in a way that couldn't just be explained by any earthly weapon. Yep, he said like a monster did it or something. Yeah, a monster did it, Suwa, you bastard. Hate you. Hope you die in this route too. By the time Yua finished up with Bon and Momose and left Frisia, the sky had long since been covered by a thick veil of darkness. During the time she spent there, Yua had explained all the suspicions she had gathered from her investigation of Nishijo Takumi. Bon was a detective, and Momose was the head of a private investigation agency. If she could get the two of them on her side, then perhaps Nishijo Takumi would finally be arrested. That was what Yua had been hoping for. Nishijo Takumi needed to be arrested. Yua had sympathy for the boy's painful circumstances, so she would have preferred it if he turned himself in to the authorities. But since he had refused to do so, she had no choice but to get the police involved. That had been her plan at any rate. But much to her surprise, Detective Bon had told her that Nishijo Takumi had been removed from the list of suspects. Yua found this news absolutely unbelievable. She did not want to accept it. Why had her theory been dismissed? It was blatantly obvious that Nishijo Takumi was behind Nugent. No, it was the guy that you heard talking to Bon on the phone, actually. Biting down hard on her lip, Yua increased her pace as she hurried toward the station. She had to return home as quickly as possible, investigate the case from top to bottom, and find some conclusive evidence. And with that evidence, she would be able to prove her theory correct to Detective Bon.
あれ楠木さんところのお嬢さんじゃないっすか
The sudden sound of her name startled Yua, stopping her dead in her tracks. The words of her homeroom teacher came to mind. Shibuya has become all too dangerous lately. Women really shouldn't be out alone at night right now. Remembering that warning, Yua froze completely. voice she had just heard belonged to a rather friendly-looking young man. Yep, I'd recognize that jackass's voice anywhere. You're the one who murdered her sister. I wonder if we're actually gonna address that fact in this route. Let her get some sweet, sweet revenge on Suwa.
あの
She felt like she had seen him somewhere before, but at the moment could not remember exactly where.
覚えてないっすか？自分、諏訪守って言います。ほら、こういうものっすよ。
Oh no, you're kind of hard. Your face is kind of hard to remember. Making sure that only Yua could see it, the man took out his police badge, which you don't deserve at all, and showed it to her, then quickly shoved it back inside his suit pocket.
集団ダイブの後、一度楠木さんのお宅に伺ったことはありますよ。その時にユアちゃんともいろいろお話ししたんすけどね。
Wow, jackass speaking to the family of the victim he murdered.
すいません、思い出しました。その説はどうも。
Yua bowed her head. The incident had really shaken her to her core, so much so that she genuinely cannot recall Sua's face. But you may remember Darth Spider. However, their talk back then had indeed helped Yua sort out her thoughts regarding the bizarre nature of her sister's death, which you caused! And for that, she was truly grateful to him. You murdered her sister! She should not be grateful in the slightest.
さっきまでバン刑事と一緒だったんじゃないっすか？
バンさんとお知り合いなんですか？
Yes, and you shouldn't ever go near him again, you bastard.
そりゃ同じ警視庁捜査一課っすから。自分の先
And
輩
he
っす
will
よ。
always be your
いつも
senior.
怒られてます。
And you deserve to have him lay into you.
よっぽど若い女の子と話せるのが嬉しかったんすね。
He should break you in two.
ここだけの話っすけど、今日ユアちゃんと会うって自分に教えてくれた時の先輩、鼻の下伸ばしちゃって、
I'm going to kick your
ど
ass.
う見てもスケベ親父って感じだったっす。
I'm going to kick your ass. He's trying to put doubt in her head about Bond. I'm gonna kick your ass. I'm gonna kick your tiny little ass, Suwa.
できれば自分も同席したかったんすけど、捜査から抜け出せなくて。そうそう、ユアちゃんのご両親には連絡行ってるんすかね。多分行ってると思うんすけど。どうかな。
Stay the hell away from her house.
連絡と言いますと？
ああ、いや、集団ダイブのね、犯人が使ったと思われる遺留品が見つかったんすよ。
You would. You're clumsy as hell.
本当ですか？
It was the first time Yua had heard of this. With all hesitation now evaporated, she stepped closer to Suwa.
ええ、どんなものだと思うっすか？ま、最近別の事件でマスコミが散々取り上げてるんで有名だと思うんすけど。なんと、ダーススパイダーのヘルメットっす。
Yeah, you freaking geek.
それを集団ダイブの犯人もかぶっていたんですか？
そう。ネットに事件の様子を撮影したビデオが流出したっすよね。あれを解析した結果、わかったんすよ。
Clear as day that you recorded it.
それにしても、ダーススパイダーといえば、例の渋谷エスパー騒動の少年が有名っすよね。西条匠くんでしたっけ？
Oh, you know his name.
なんで彼が集団ダイブの犯人と同じようにダーススパイダーのヘルメットを持ってたんすかね。
Oh, yeah. Anyways, yeah, he's trying to screw over Takumi here. The moment she heard those words, dark impulses began to flood Yua's heart. Oh, they shouldn't be towards Takumi. They should be towards this guy. Don't listen to him. He's the one who killed your sister. She'd been completely convinced by the literal killer she had only begun feeling it a few moments ago. All she needed was one piece of decisive evidence. One piece to prove herself to Bon and Momose. And now she had it.
さてと、それじゃあ自分フリージアに行くんで、この辺で失礼します。
Oh, you're excused. So, she just didn't hear that smug smirk of his at all? I mean, that smug scoff of his. Heh. Yeah, we're gonna wipe that face off of you. I hope Yua stabs you with her D-sword. I really do. Maybe your girlfriend, too. And with that, Suwa waved goodbye and left. All by herself now, Yua stared down at the pavement, utterly paralyzed.
彼だわ。
Yes, it was him. Him. No, Yua, not the guy you met the other day. This guy. Her murmurs were to no one but herself.
彼なの。やっぱり彼だった。彼しかいない。彼に間違いない。彼が妹を殺したのよ。彼がミワを殺したのよ。
Just now, there'd been a knock at the door. Someone was there. I looked at the clock on my PC. It was past 8 p.m. Who in their right mind would show up this late? Wait, Remy, it had to be her. She'd finally come to save me. She'd said she would stay by my side, hadn't she? So it only made sense that she'd come back to me. Would have killed her to come a little earlier, though. Feeling like my salvation was at hand, I practically threw myself at the door. I then removed the padlock and opened the door. Hello, Yua.
Rim!
I tried to call out Remy's name, but a hand suddenly clamped my mouth shut. Panic instantly overwhelmed me. I didn't even have the chance to see who it was. I tried forcing the hand off my mouth, but before I could, my attacker threw all their weight against me, and I staggered backwards. Still, I desperately tried to stand my ground. I flailed my arms around wildly, thinking it'd somehow help me break their grasp. I then opened my mouth wide and bit down on their hand as hard as I could. But despite that, my attacker remained silent. They weren't even phased. I'd been down with all my strength, so they must have been in pain. But they still didn't let go. They pressed against me even harder, causing me to lose my balance. No longer able to resist, I fell to the floor with me on top of them. The back of my head hit the ground so hard, I nearly lost consciousness. My vision started to go blurry, and I couldn't tell how exactly I'd landed. And to top it all off, the assailant was still covering my mouth. So tightly, in fact, that I could barely breathe. My consciousness was starting to fade, so before I blacked out, I desperately tried to get a glimpse of the person who'd attacked me. Damn, he bit hard. You... Oh god, I'd completely forgotten about her. I was so focused on Shogun, his #1 underling slipped my mind. Realizing that, the sheer terror sent shivers down my entire body. I struggled as hard as I could, desperately trying to escape. But under the full weight of her body, I couldn't move an inch. Under normal circumstances, I would have been focused on the fact that our bodies were pressed together under normal circumstances. But I lack the capacity for that right now. That wasn't the time to be drooling over female content. Yeah, it really isn't. Shut the hell up. There was only one thing on my mind. I needed to get away somehow, or she'd kill me. Blood trickled out of Yua's hand where I'd bitten her. Even so, she kept pressing down with all her might. Her grip just as intense as when she'd first grabbed hold of me. She was trying relentlessly to keep my jaw shut, to the point where her nails were digging into my cheeks. A sharp, stabbing pain pierced through my body.
あなたよ
Her mutters came between ragged breaths, much to my horror. I had to keep resisting, so I grabbed Yua's long hair and pulled hard. But Yua still didn't budge. All she did was grimace. Using her free hand, she gripped my hand tightly and dug her nails in once again. The immense pain forced me to let go. And then, using that tiny opening, she pinned my hands to the floor.
あなたでしょあなたなのよ
Yua's glasses had slipped down her nose during the fight. Tears were welling up behind them, likely from the pain of me pulling her hair. Just like that day at Shoto Park, she was staring right through me with those cold, sharp eyes.
あなたが殺した
What the hell was she talking about? Was it the same bullshit as always, calling me the new gen killer? I hadn't killed anyone. You came here to kill me, you dumb bitch. I tried to glare back at Yua, but hers was just too terrifying to confront. Nothing good could come from making eye contact with dangerous people. I soon came to realize how true that was, how unhinged a look could really be. I looked away, wishing from the depths of my soul that I'd wake up from this nightmare.
目をそらさないで
Yua brought her face in even closer. I could feel her ragged breaths on my cheeks.
私を見た
With how close she was, it was practically impossible to look anywhere else. Her breath was incredibly hot. I wanted to headbutt her, but Yua was pressing down so hard, I couldn't even lift my head off the floor.
教えてあげるあなたが知らないあなたを教えてあげるあなたの中にはもう一人のあなたがいるの
DID. Multiple personalities, in other words. Man, now I think about it, Yua is basically the, those people who tried to diagnose celebrities with mental disorders taken to the extreme. When we were at that cafe, Yua had said the same thing. That was all just some stupid fucking delusion of hers. She didn't know shit. She sure as hell didn't know me better than I did.
西条くんまだ知らないの自覚できていないの何も知りませんでしたって許されると思ってるの今まで何度も忠告してきたのどうして聞いてくれないのあなたの中にはもう一人の人格将軍だよこの人格は許されないことをしているの
Something tells me he's not the one with DID. You are.
これ以上放置はできないこれ以上人殺しはさせないあなたは早く病院へ行って治療すべきよそれが嫌だと言うなら私はあなたを警察に突き出す将軍を放置することは西条くんの罪よあなたも人殺しに加担しているんだって理解して
I don't need to understand shit.
理解できるよね
I didn't fucking kill anyone.
理解しても
Not
らわ
yet,
なきゃ困る
anyways. I don't have multiple personalities.
理解すべきよ
That's the kind of shit you only see in anime and manga and shit. This is real life. I don't have DID, goddammit.
出てきて私はあなたと話がしたいの聞こえているんでしょ将軍
I'm not Shogun. You've got the wrong guy. Shogun is someone else. I've even met him, for fuck's sake. He uses a wheelchair. He appears out of thin air like he's some kind of ghost. He's always reading my mind like some sick fucking pervert. And despite having the voice of a kid, he's covered in wrinkles like an old man. He's my enemy. Don't lump me in with him. Just the thought makes me want to puke. Wait, wasn't Yua supposed to be Shogun's underling? I could have sworn she was working for him. It really did seem like she genuinely had me and Shogun mixed up.
西条君、自重して。あなたは少し眠っていて、将軍にその体を渡して。
Even if I do go to sleep, that won't fucking happen. I don't have multiple personalities, you stupid fucking bitch. I tried my hardest to say all that to her, but since her hand was still pressed firmly against my mouth, the best I could do was make a bunch of muffled
出て
growls.
きなさい。出てきて。出てきて。出られないの。出てこられるはずよ。出たいでしょ。出てこい。人殺し。
Tears began to fall from my eyes. I lost all will to resist. All remaining strength left my body. I was so tired. Why did I have to deal with this psycho? Why did I have to listen to all the bullshit she spewed at me? What had I done to deserve this? This was just too much. All because of this delusional stalker had come to the wrong conclusion. And now no one would save me. Was I going to die by her hands? Even if I didn't, even if I made it through today, there'd be no guarantee I'd survive tomorrow. Shogun could still show up at any time. But I have to live the rest of my life in fear? Please, I didn't want that. I didn't want to live like that. I'd rather go insane and then get locked up in some mental facility somewhere. I'd rather die right here, right now.
どうして泣くの？
Yua slowly began to remove her hand from my mouth, and then she started lifting herself off me. As soon as her weight was completely off, I felt instant relief. You know, now is a perfectly acceptable time to punch her in the face and break her glasses.
将軍が出てきたの？
If you do, I will not judge you, Takumi. I will not judge you in the slightest. I shook my head lifelessly.
誰なんだ。いっそ殺せ。
殺さない。私が殺させない。あなたは罪を償うべきなのよ。そして真実を語るべき。死んで逃げることは許さない。許さないわ。許すわけにはいかないの。
将軍は別にいる。ニュージェネの犯人はそいつだよ。
将軍はあなたよ。あなたなの。あなたしか考えられない。
My words had gone in one ear and out the other. She refused to listen to me. She was completely convinced that she knew the truth. There was no point resisting.
将軍、出てきて。出てきてよ。出てきてって言ってるでしょ。どうして出てこないの？あなたがそこにいるのは分かってるのよ。絶対に将軍を引き出してみせるわ。私は諦めないから。それまで絶対に逃がさないから。
Suddenly, Yua stood up and went to close the open container door. She slowly picked the padlock up off the floor and used it to lock the door shut. And then she stashed the key away in the pocket of her uniform. Why was she doing this? What was she thinking?
逃がさないから。
Doing a frickin' JoJo pose. A faint murmur, spoken to no one but herself, one that chilled me to the bone. Whoosh! Whoosh! With the countless fast food restaurants located throughout Shibuya, every single one was always packed front to back with young people. It took a lot of courage for a lone middle-aged man to come to a place like this. After all, he would be sure to stick out like a sore thumb. Those were the thoughts circulating in Bon Yasuji's mind as he sipped his coffee, surrounded on all sides by young people chattering away. The drink in his paper cup was already starting to go cold. Hell yeah, more Bon content! Yes! I need more of my Japanese Columbo. A single clear file folder sat on the table in front of him. Inside it was a handful of photocopied documents from the investigation files, many of which were adorned with Bond's countless sticky notes. Bond had arrived at the restaurant about an hour ago. The location where he planned to personally re-examine the file's contents. As for why he had chosen such a busy place like this, he had been removed from the New Gen investigation team a few days prior, but he still wished to independently run background checks on all relevant persons. A copy of the report that Bond was sifting through, which was never intended to leave the police station, had a few images attached to it. One photograph depicted one of the victims of the first New Gen incident, the group dive, a girl named Kusunoki Miya. Bond's interest had been piqued the previous day when he had met with Mia's older sister, Kusunoki Yua. After hearing Yua describe Mia's personality, he had decided to investigate further. At first, he was also looking into rumors from around Shibuya, such as the high school girl with a sword, but in the end, every lead turned up cold. That is, except for Mia. And after reading through the documents again and again, he still felt like something was off. There was a lot of information which seemed trivial at best, or at the very least, not directly related to the case. After putting the pieces together, something felt out of place. And when Bond had heard Yua's story yesterday, that feeling had crept up on him all the more. After all, there was something in the file that Bond could not ignore. A pair of glasses was found among the possessions of Kusunoki Miya, one of the group dive participants. That was the detail that rubbed Bond the wrong way. He took a look at a list of notes taken from various interviews conducted during the investigation. Taking another sip of coffee, Bond let out a befuddled grunt. From her birth all the way until her death, there was not a single photograph of Kusunoki Miya wearing glasses. Oh. Okay, maybe it's the other thing. Oh no. Mia is the one who survived. And she's taken on the alternate personality. And the trauma of losing her sister has caused her to take on the personality of Yua, perhaps? That seems to be what the standoff with the rucksack guy was implying. Yeah. It was her sister, Kusunoki Yua, that wore them. He had even gone so far as to obtain access to Kusunoki Miya's medical records. Sure enough, she had boasted perfect 20/20 vision, and thus had no need for glasses. Kusunoki Miya had been a quiet girl with an interest in anime, quite the contrast to her happy-go-lucky sister! Yep. This isn't the Yua route. This is the Mia route. That all matched up with the description Kusunoki Yua had given. While the 5 victims of the group dive were friends, some reports suggested that their encounter on the rooftop was the first time they had ever met. Allegedly, they were online friends who had gotten together for an offline meet. Naturally, their online activity was heavily scrutinized as a part of the investigation, but there were never any signs of suicidal tendencies displayed by the victims. So yeah, online for... Wait, let me read that again. Yeah, okay. Furthermore, several hours before the group dive, 2 high school girls, who appeared to be twins, had been spotted walking into a fast food restaurant in Shibuya. Bond took a look around. He was sitting in the very same fast food restaurant mentioned in the report. Before sitting down, Bon had also taken the time to speak with one of the restaurant's employees. The employee had told him that the two girls had chatted for a while, then proceeded to take a 10-minute bathroom break. What on earth could have taken them so long in there? Bon wondered. He stared intently at the women's restroom, which caught him the scornful glare of every young girl nearby. Realizing this, Bon flashed a wry smile before returning his gaze back toward the streets outside the window. So yeah, this would also explain why Yua appears to have this weird, quiet, obsessed, focused personality that she swaps into. She is Mia. 18 excruciating hours had passed since Yua had raided my container. My hands had been tied behind my back and around the leg of my loft bed. Fortunately, I'd been tied sitting down, so it wasn't too exhausting. Unfortunately, the rope coiled around my wrists was constantly digging into them, which was fairly painful. I somehow managed to doze off for around 3 hours during that time, but it didn't do me any good. I was still very sleepy, likely due to the fact that no one could get any half-decent sleep like this. Damn it. I wasn't into this S&M shit at all. If only I could hit decline on this RP invite. Okay, yeah, you are absolutely Mia. Now I think about it, she's looking over her glasses, not through her glasses. Yua was still sitting on the sofa, watching me. She had been doing so all night. She had really been putting her all into it, too. She did nothing else the entire time. Did she ever sleep? I know it's you. You're the one who's into anime. You're pretending to be your sister. Or, well, you probably have DID and your sister's an alter. That's probably why you know so much about DID in the first place. What was she even trying to accomplish here to begin with? Yua was convinced I had DID, but I knew that wasn't true. She could wait like that all she wants, but Shogun would never come out. She hadn't gagged me and actually allowed me to speak right after she tied me down. Of course, I'd taken full advantage of that to voice the above thoughts over and over again, but they just went in one ear and out the other. After a few hours of trying to change her mind, I realized how obstinate she really was, so I just gave up. And after that,
あなたが将軍を生み出したんです。あなたが将軍なんです。現実逃避の手段。
speak for yourself.
将軍はあなた自身であり、同時にあなたではない別の存在。もう一人のあなた。あなたの負の側面。あなたの弱い心を守るための存在。あなたの狂気。快楽殺人者。手段は選ばない。殺す相手も選ばない。殺すことが存在理由。誰でもよかったんですか？本当に？ミーアはなぜ選ばれたんですか？答えて。答えてよ。
I'm guessing it's possible that since she's deluded herself into thinking that she's Yua and Mia's the one who died, she may have pulled her parents into the delusion as well, because she's a gigolo maniac.
答えてください。答えてほしい。答えないと許しません。
Yua kept mumbling her pathological ramblings over and over and over again, never coming up for air. My room was extremely small, and my only means of covering my ears, my hands, were tied up, so I had no choice but to listen. I thought I was going insane. On top of that, I felt as if I'd only gotten to experience the tip of the iceberg. I started trying to think of a way to escape. I tried pulling the toilet card to weigh my chances of getting out of here. But it didn't work. She did untie my hands and allow me to go, but she followed me very closely. She stood right behind me the entire time, never taking her eyes off of me even when I was doing my business. And to make matters worse, she even continued spouting those insane ramblings of hers from behind my back. How long was this shit gonna go on for? I couldn't even get some actual sleep, because who knows when this bitch was gonna snap and kill me out of nowhere. Then again, even if I was awake, I wasn't confident I'd be able to defend myself anyway.
何がきっかけ？どうすれば出てくるんですか？肉体的苦痛、精神的苦痛、性的衝動、トラウマ、偶然。
Yua's murmur suddenly came to a stop, but even then, she was still glaring at me. The room had only become dead silent, and yet, given the circumstances, the stillness only served to make me even more tense. Suddenly, the sound of a stomach growling broke the silence. I hadn't had anything to eat or drink, so I was obviously hungry, but that still hadn't been me just now, which meant that Yua was hungry too. Moreover, I was sure I'd heard a stomach growling, but Yua's lack of reaction almost made me reconsider. Normal girls, Seraton for example, would have a way cuter reaction. Yeah, she'd most likely say something like this.
何さ、しょうがないっしょ。食べたいけど、すごく我慢してるんだから。なんでって、それは前にあなたに太ってるって言われたから。でも別にさ、あなたに言われたからダイエットしてるわけじゃないよ。勘違いしないでよね、このコケナス。
Ah, what a classic tsundere. As transparent as a glass window. Sarah, you're so cute when you get mad and blush like that, Sarah. Damn it, the situation I was in was really making me want to escape into my delusions.
食べないんですか？
Yua's tone was as ice cold as ever. As I was still sitting, she lowered her gaze down to my feet. A plate had been placed in front of them. It was a plate full of pasta, taraco spaghetti to be precise, served with a finely cut seaweed garnish. However, it had already been sitting there for around 2 hours, so the pasta probably was all dry and sticky by now. Yua had made it for me. She tied me up and left me without saying a word, then came back about 30 minutes later with a heaping plate of pasta. It would seem she'd gone to the supermarket, bought the ingredients, then cooked them into a pasta for me outside the container house. What was she plotting by making me a home-cooked meal? I couldn't wrap my head around it. She could have just bought something that was ready-made at the convenience store. Are we gonna have to do a meal tier list by the end of these routes? Decide which girl is the best cook. Maybe she'd poisoned it. The thought made me want to stay up as far away from it as possible. Besides, it wasn't like I could eat it even if I wanted to. My hands were tied up, and the plate was at my feet.
あんたが食べればいい。
Remembering that Yua's stomach had growled, I gave that sarcastic retort.
あなたを肉体的にいたぶろうとか、そんなつもりはないんです。私はただ、将軍が出てくるのを待っているだけ。だから、 べてください。食べてくれなきゃ困ります。食べて。
この状態で食べられると思ってるの？無茶言わないでよ。
Yua stood up, walked up to me, and then she crouched down next to me. I looked away in fear, still holding on to the hope that she'd untied the rope coiled around my hands. But of course, that wasn't what happened. Instead, Yua picked up the plate, struggled to twirl the dry as hell sticky pasta with a fork, and then, when she finally managed to, she held it out to my mouth.
どうぞ。
嫌だ。食べないぞ。
Okay, open wide, say ah! And experience were events that you could only experience in Eroge. This was real life. When things were this tense, all her feeding me did was highlight her murderous intent all the more. At least untie me if you're gonna do shit like this. At least if I was untied, I could pretend to eat some and go, yep, this tastes like shit, take it away. Okay, thanks. But here I wasn't even afforded that.
レンジでチンしましょうか？
いらないって言ってるじゃないか。
I thought about knocking the plate out of her hand with my knee, but if I did that, she'd definitely get pissed, and there was no telling what she'd do next. The thought sent chills down my spine, and so, in the end, I decided to hold back the urge.
分かってください。私が西条くんにこんなことするのは、あなたを救うためでもあるんです。決してあなたを傷つけるためじゃないんですよ。
The fuck are you talking about, Yua? Are you stupid? Wanna die? Who the hell did she think she was? She wanted to save me? Sure, it was true that New Gen, Shogun, and all that stuff scared the living shit out of me, and that I desperately wanted someone to save me. But that someone was clearly excluding Yua. I'd never asked to be subjected to this crazy bitch's delusions.
食べて。無理にでも食べて。
There was cold pasta twirled around the fork. Yua shoved it toward my mouth.
食べられますよね。
Yua moved even closer, still glaring at me to no end.
食べてください。食べて。
Suddenly, Yua stopped dead in her tracks. Why'd this bitch come closer and closer every time she got mad? I kept looking away and clamped my mouth shut. She must have been insane if she thought I'd ever eat something she made. I'd end up with fucking food poisoning. An hour or so had passed. My stomach was still growling. I was so scared that I wanted to scream, but I couldn't.
食べて。食べてよ。食べてって言ってるでしょ。食べて。
Yua was still crouching down next to me, staring at me. And she was still trying to shove the pasta down my throat, too. She had stayed there the entire time, in the exact same position.
食べて。食べてください。食べないと。食べて。食べてほしい。食べて。食べなさい。食べて。食べていいの。食べなよ。食べろ。
She just kept on making her demands in a series of low murmurs, refusing to do anything else. I had a feeling that another hour had passed already. I was so creeped out I couldn't even lift a finger. I was petrified. I was a deer perpetually stuck in the headlights. She hadn't hurt me or anything, and she hadn't forced me to eat the pasta either. And yet, somehow, I felt more and more afraid of Yua with each passing moment. She was simply waiting for me to eat and nothing else. And yet, I was still scared shitless. A normal person would have given up after about 5 minutes, but not Yua. No, Yua had kept at it for over an hour. If this were a normal version of this kind of thing, Yua would pull my hair, force my mouth open, and scream at me to eat it, you scum! But she didn't. so I didn't have the slightest clue what the hell she was thinking. She was a total freak. She was broken. No sane person could do what she was doing. She wasn't human. She couldn't be. I'm scared. 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 I was at rock bottom. I wanted to kneel down and beg for her forgiveness. My entire body was covered in a thick, disgusting sweat. I was enduring so much anguish mentally that I could hardly breathe. I didn't know what to do. I've never had a girl stare at me from this close and for this long before. But who the hell has? If we were a couple having some lovey-dovey conversation while we rubbed our noses together or some shit, that'd be fine. But no! No. You had just kept on repeating the same shit over and over again like a broken goddamn record. But this broken record never stopped fucking glaring at me. How is this even real?
食べて食べなさい食べて食べてください食べろ
I couldn't deal with her gaze on me any longer, so I dared to squeeze out a single word. My voice had gone hoarse.
食べるよ
Yua's murmurs stopped. She remained completely still, in the same posture as before. I forced my mouth open. I nervously ate the pasta that she'd been trying to feed me for over an hour. My mouth was already dry to begin with, and eating this withered pasta definitely didn't help. It just sucked away any remaining moisture I had left. I couldn't bear the taste, so I almost didn't chew at all as I choked the pasta down. Yua blinked a few times, surprised to see me actually eating. And like a statue come to life, she started moving again.
おいしい
No, it doesn't taste good at all, I thought to myself, but there's no way I could say it to her face, so I just gave a weak nod instead.
よかったです
Despite what she had said, Yua still had the most deadpan expression on her face. I couldn't detect even the slightest bit of happiness. She moved the fork back toward the plate she was holding, and with it, she picked up another clump of the dry, sticky pasta and held it out to my mouth once again. Did I really have to eat all of it? Would she not let me go otherwise? Give me a break already. Tears started flowing from my eyes. I couldn't hold them in anymore. I was just too scared. And yet, no matter how hard I cried, Yua didn't seem to care. She would keep on doing this until I finished the entire plate. So I ate, tears endlessly streaming down my face. And she kept on feeding me that dry, shitty pasta. By the time I'd finished all of it, I was both physically and mentally exhausted.
お腹いっぱいになりましたかなりましたよねなったはず一生懸命作った甲斐がありました
In contrast to what she'd said, Yua's tone was as cold as ice. Then, at last, she took a small step away from me, placed the plate on my desk, and sat back down on the sofa. After sitting down, she looked in my direction and went right back to staring at me. And as she stared, she stopped moving. Don't look at me, damn it! Please stop looking at me! I did nothing but chant those words over and over inside my head, but I couldn't say them out loud. I was too scared. Was she really going to monitor me for an entire day? This was straight up psychological torture. Just the mere thought of it made me even more depressed.
なんでこんなことするんだよ
I was crying now, but I couldn't help but ask that. I needed to know.
僕に何の恨みがあって
妹が死んだんです
Huh? Younger sister. For a split second, Yua looked like she was about to cry. only to quickly reassume her ice-cold expression.
集団ダイブの被害者の一人、私の双子の妹、ミヤって言います。私は妹を殺した犯人を許さない。許さないって思ってました。そしてあなたにたどり着いた。あなたの苦しみを知りました。私は妹がなぜ殺されなくちゃいけなかったのか、その真実を知りたい。なぜ犯人が、将軍が妹を殺したのか知りたい。それとあなたも助けたい。分かってください。分かってくれますよね。分かるはず。分かるはずです。
I thought back to the video of the group dive that had been uploaded to YouTube. Had one of the crying victims in the video been Yua's younger sister? I knew full well what Yua was going through. The same kind of thing that had happened recently with Nanami, after all. But that didn't mean I could forgive what she was doing right now. This crazy bitch had broken into my house, tied me up, and now she was holding me captive. Yeah, no way in hell could I ever feel sympathy for her after all that shit. I had completely lost track of time. My room had no windows, after all. I had no way to tell what time it was.
その目誰の目ってどういう意味？どうしてこれから殺す相手に言わせたの？どうしてダイイングメッセージとして残したの？あなたは何を訴えたいの？
Usually, I just checked the time on my phone or my PC. Not that there were any other ways to do so. But since I was still tied to the leg of my bed, I obviously couldn't use either method. The only chance I got to check the time was whenever I went to the bathroom. But even then, it was a pretty small window. But the longer this torture lasted, the harder it got for me to get up and use the toilet. I simply didn't feel the urge to piss, likely because I wasn't drinking enough water. It felt as if I'd been deprived of all physiological phenomena for over a day now.
どうしてダーススパイダーなの？それを被ることで何を訴えたかったの？宗教的な意味があるの？ダークヒーロー願望？それともセロンをバカにしたいだけ？
Yua practically didn't move an inch. She simply continued sitting on the sofa, standing up every once in a while only to sit back down right after. And her muttering hadn't stopped the entire time. How was she still talking after this long? It wasn't like I could kill time on my PC, nor could I make any calls or send any messages. I couldn't even sleep. All I could do was sit there and be assaulted endlessly with questions. Yua's mumbling was starting to sound like a mantra or something at this point. I couldn't stand being watched for this long. Sure, I had to cope with Shogun reading my mind, and the sensation of being observed by the gaze. While those things did suck, I could at least stomach them. But I wish I could say the same about Yua's unending watch. Her gaze was so utterly devoid of any emotion or warmth that it genuinely felt as if I wasn't even there. Whoops. Like my very existence itself was constantly being ignored, if not outright denied by her. Regardless, the point is that I knew nothing about what was going on in the outside world. I couldn't as long as I was tied up. I had lost all perception of time. I didn't know how many days had passed since I'd been tied up. I had a feeling that 2 days or so had gone by, but it sure as hell felt more like a month. Being deprived of my freedom was really stressful. Every minute of however many hours had passed, I would think to myself, I need to look at a clock. That was the sole thing on my mind.
それとも
Yua's head suddenly tilted. She took off her glasses and rubbed the eyelids that occulted her bleary eyes. She was only human, I'd imagine, so she was finally starting to get tired. She hadn't caught a wink of sleep the entire time, after all. Maybe she should have thought this through before doing it. She was just wasting her time. Nothing would come of any of this. This never would have happened if she'd just listened to me.
いつ出てきてくれるんですか
Her whispers were practically delirious. Come out. She must have still been talking about Shogun.
どうしたら出てきてくれるんですか出てきてよ
Unfortunately for you, he won't come out no matter how much you plead, because he's not there to begin with.
待ってるから待って
When silence took over the room once more, Yua's body slowly tilted over. With all her strength gone, she fell to her side on the sofa. Had she fallen asleep? Had her batteries finally run out? I breathed a sigh of relief, and all the tension in my body released along with it. I hadn't had even a single moment to relax the entire time she'd been staring at me. And now that she wasn't, I could finally take it easy for a bit.
タッキー、何のんきなこと言ってんの？
Seidaton's voice rang out from beside my monitor.
逃げるなら今がチャンスなんよ。それどころかさ、今なら無防備なユアッチを逆監禁できるかも。そしたらやりたい放題じゃん、ボケナス。
Oh, I see. So I can degrade her and train her into becoming the perfect sex slave. I'm picking up what you're putting down. You was still lying on the sofa, so I took a nervous glance at her face. To be honest, if I ignored everything else, her sleeping face was actually pretty cute. It reminded me of when we first met, that gentle smile she'd had. I obviously didn't know what Yua had really been thinking back then, nor that she'd seen me as a murderer. If anything, I saw her as an enemy, as one of Shogun's underlings. But it was her fault for making me think that. She was the one who deceived me, who betrayed me. So if I wanted to degrade her and turn her into my sex slave, this bitch had no right to complain. I peeked at Yua's sleeping face once more. Her eyelids twitched erratically, and her face contorted in a pained expression. Then from the corner of her eye, a single tear ran down her cheek. Could she be having a nightmare about her dead sister?
タッキー、調教師ないの？
After seeing her shed a tear like that, I'd already lost the drive.
監禁されて禁縛されてるのに？タッキーって聖人君子だね。優しい、優しすぎる。そこはタッキーのいいところだけど、時と場合によるよ。
That's not what I meant. Of course I wasn't gonna forgive Yua that easily. I just didn't have the strength to be angry with her, nor to even resist at all. It was all gone, completely sapped. Was it because of the huge release in tension? Or could it have been because she told me about her little sister? It didn't really feel like Yua wanted to hurt me or anything, weird as that might sound. Suddenly, I was struck with an intense drowsiness. And so, I surrendered my body to the feeling, allowing myself to forget, if only for a moment, the pain that my bound wrists were being tortured by. I'll think of a way out of this later. As soon as I woke up, I knew something was off. Like something was missing. Still half asleep, I looked around my room. I tried to stand up, but the rope coiled around my wrists dug in deep, and the sheer pain stopped me in my tracks. The pain immediately reminded me that I was tied up, and the one that had done so was Yua. Oh, Yua wasn't here. So that's what had felt off. I was the only one in the room. Where had she gone? Had she gone to make food? Or to use the bathroom? I didn't know how many days it had been since Yua locked me in here, but what I did know was that neither of us had been to school the entire time. We only went outside to use the bathroom or cook something. I wasn't even allowed to take a shower. I let out a heavy sigh. Yua should come back any minute now. And when she did, she'd start watching me all over again. Had Yua always been this stubborn? Or was it the hatred and regret she felt from her sister's death that made her start acting this way? Regardless, how could I make her understand that I wasn't Shogun? Ugh. Maybe I could show her the messages Shogun had sent me, if they were still on my PC anyway. But let's be honest, we were long past that. Yua was fully devoted to this delusional bullshit she'd come up with. I doubted she'd believe me even if I did show them to her. I needed something more concrete. Something to convince her that Shogun and I were two completely different people. If only he would just show up here, then there'd be no denying it. It kind of sucked for me if that happened, though. I didn't want him anywhere near me. And besides, if he came to my base, it'd probably be to kill me.
ねえねえタッキー、逃げた方がいいよ。あたし、あんな思い込み激しいストーカー女にこれ以上タッキーがいじめられるのを見たくないもん。
Thank you, Sarah. But I can't run. I can't untie myself on my own. I had obviously already made my fair share of attempts to escape, but my struggle had proved futile. Yua's knots were tight, and no matter how hard I tried, I couldn't even get them to budge.
あたしが3次元になれたら、今すぐタッキーを助けに行くのにな。
I don't know. As great as escaping sounds on paper, Sarah, I think just doing whatever she says like I've been doing is the far safer option. If I tried to escape and failed, it could make Yua go berserk. Whenever Yua lost her temper, it was crazy how scary she got. So I was gonna do everything I could not to provoke her.
自分の命を守るために一番いい方法をちゃんと考えてるんだね。すごいよタッキー。だけどあたしさ、これ以上タッキーとあの女が同じ部屋にいるのは嫌だな。
As much as I hated to admit it, as long as I was tied up, I was entirely dependent on Yua to survive. Luckily, she hadn't been violent with me at all yet. Bro, do you even remember what happened when she came in? Sorry for yawning. I'm genuinely enjoying this route. I'm just waiting for, more plot. She'd even cooked for me and let me use the bathroom whenever I had asked. She was still treating me like a human being. I was sure that once she finally understood that no matter how long she waited, Shogun wouldn't come out, she'd let me go. Hell, even better, I was sure she'd beg me for forgiveness. Of course, I'd make her get down on her hands and knees, or else what'd be the point? While we're at it, I could accidentally grab her tits too. And then it'd all be forgiven. Yua would go back to her own life, and I'd go on with mine. She'd never see me again, and I'd never see her again. So at the very least, the Yua threat would disappear completely. Or, if I was very lucky, there was even a chance that she would have a change of heart and end up joining my party. Shogun was still real and very much a problem, so Yua could step up and replace Rimi as my protector. It'd be better than nothing. We even had some common ground. Above all else, Yua resented the new gen culprit, and therefore Shogun. The enemy of my enemy is my friend. Yua's interests and mine coincided.
僕って頭良くね？天才じゃね？
タッキーってば天才。私さ、ますますタッキーのこと好きになっちゃった。
Man scores high in a essay submission contest one time and thinks he's got it all figured out. And so I decided to ride the storm out. Okay, where the hell was she? Yua still hadn't shown any signs of coming back. It'd been a good while since she'd left, too. I knew for a fact that at least a few hours had passed. Probably. Where in the world had she gone? Sure as hell wasn't the toilet. I could also rule out that she'd been grabbing dinner, since there was no way it would have taken this long. Every time she'd gone out to buy us food, she just went to the nearest supermarket and came back shortly after. So where was she? Had she gone to school? I didn't even know what time it was right now. If it was around noon, then it was certainly a possibility. If I could have just looked at the minimum attendance chart, then I would have been able to know what day it was instantly. It would have told me a lot, actually. It would have told me a lot, really. For example, if Yua had kept me locked up for 3 days straight, and the first day had been Friday, that would explain why she'd been able to stay here and not go to school. Because it had been the weekend. In other words, today was Monday, and Yua had gone to school. That had to be it. It had to. What day had it been when Yua had broken into my room again? My consciousness was already foggy as all hell, so I couldn't remember clearly. Oh yeah, now I think about it, Mia would have to take on the identity of Yua in order to get into Suimei Academy without raising suspicion. But what if she hadn't gone to school? What if she'd gone back home, for example? These days, every slut in high school would stay out overnight without asking their parents, but Yua wasn't like that. Even if she had gotten permission, staying over at my place for who knows how many nights would definitely make her parents worried. So, knowing that, she'd gone back home in order to pacify them. Probably. It made a lot of sense, actually. Well, regardless of where she'd gone off to, she had to come back eventually. So it'd be in my best interest to stay put and conserve my energy. Laying out a small sigh, I closed my eyes. Might as well get some sleep. I couldn't sleep. I closed my eyes and tried my hardest to doze off for hours on end, but I just couldn't manage to. And I ended up just staring at the door, torturing myself over whether or not Yua would come back. There was a bit of a windstorm going on outside, so the door rattled faintly every once in a while. Whenever it did, I would immediately open my eyes, thinking that Yua had come back. But no matter how many times I thought that, she still hadn't. I was left all alone in this container, tied up like an animal. Since she was taking her sweet time, I decided I might as well try to break out the restraints on my wrists. The rope that bound me to the leg of my bed was made of nylon, which is why I thought that maybe with enough force, I could break free. And so, I poured all my strength into my arms. But it was no use. The rope didn't even budge. Or maybe I was just too weak. After all, I was a pretty big weakling in general. An otaku freak that did nothing but play Vidya and surf the internet all day long. There's no way I could have broken that cord like some kind of movie protagonist. Tearing the cord with just arm strength alone was obviously impossible, so I tried to think of some other way. Obviously, it would have been really easy if I had a knife or something, but unfortunately, I had no such luck. The only things I could see around me were magazines, manga, CDs, empty boxed lunches, that kind of stuff.
ダメだ。
I was helpless. I couldn't even snap a single piece of nylon string on my own.
ユアは戻ってくるよね。
I unintentionally voiced those thoughts out loud, meaning I was basically talking to myself.
ねえねえタッキー、もしかしてさ、見捨てられたんじゃない？
Abandoned me. As in, Yua had left me here to rot? As in, she wasn't planning on coming back? If that was all true, I was screwed. Surely she hadn't just tied me up and expected me to survive on my own, right? If you're gonna lock someone up, then you should realize you're responsible for them until you let them go. Come on, that was just common sense. No, she couldn't have abandoned me. I was overthinking it. Yua was definitely going to come back. She still hadn't uncovered Shogun's true identity, so surely she wouldn't give up yet. Yua would never abandon me. This is fine.
知ってる？そういうのってさ、ストックホルム症候群って言うんよ。
Yes, I obviously know what Stockholm Syndrome is. But you're wrong. This isn't like that. My brain isn't dependent on Yua or anything. As if I would ever warm up to that mental case, let alone fall for her.
僕もつい最近、ナナミのことがあったから、ユアの気持ちはわからなくはないとかって脳内で妄想してなかったっけ？
Was I lying to myself? Was I just forcing myself to believe that I could trust Yua? Maybe I was. Stockholm Syndrome was a psychological phenomenon in which people deceived their own selves for the sake of survival. Stockholm Syndrome, a psychiatric term. In cases such as imprisonment, the hostage is forced to spend an extensive amount of time with their captor in an enclosed space. As a result of this extended interaction, the hostage may begin to develop positive feelings toward their captor, despite them doing horrible things to them. This phenomenon is known as Stockholm Syndrome. It can be described as a state of self-deception based on the idea that building a trusting relationship with one's captor rather than resisting them will increase chances of survival. The name is derived from a real hostage situation that took place in Stockholm in 1973. Huh, I actually didn't know that. Wonder how many of these I have left. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Yeah, 15 left. And D swords are in different categories, so if I have what's it? 6 roots left, including this one, then yeah. That makes sense. What else could I do in this situation? I had no other choice. I had to rely on Yua. Rimi had backed out, and Nanami hadn't come to check on me for a long time now. My parents let me know when they were worried about me via Nanami, but they never actually checked on me personally. And the only other person I knew that lived in this container was Yua, which meant the only person I could rely on was also Yua. Therefore, I had to lie to myself. It was the only way I could survive. Now that I think about it, the reason that Takumi's parents are probably so overprotective and helicoptering of him is because, he has that condition. He has. I didn't want to die. I didn't want Yua to mistreat me. I didn't have the courage to resist her using force. So that was why I decided to just submit. I wouldn't resist. And then, if I waited long enough, eventually she'd understand. That was the only way an otaku freak like me would be able to survive. I would trust in Yua. I would trust in her by lying to myself. And then I'd make it out of this without anyone getting hurt.
あんなストーカーメガネ女を信じちゃダメだよ。タッキーゆとりすぎ。
Considering he was just having thoughts of making her a sex slave, not exactly a real nice guy, more like an R nice guy. For the first time in my life, I completely ignored what Sierra-tan had to say. So please, come back soon, Yua. You're coming back, right? And then it happened. Without warning, the door burst open. It caught me completely by surprise, and I immediately froze. I could finally see outside. The sky was dyed orange by the setting sun. And there, obstructing my view of it, was Yua. I was relieved from the bottom of my heart to see her there. Realizing that I hadn't been abandoned nearly made me cry tears of joy. I was a little disgusted with how easily I'd been tamed, but my disgust was immediately overshadowed by the intense feeling of relief.
おかえり。
I had no one else, so I was forced to be dependent on her. That was why something so fucking stupid had somehow come out of my mouth. But...
あなた、邪魔だわ、西条くん。
え？
Yua quickly walked over to me, crouched down to meet me at eye level, and then she grabbed my hair and yanked on it, hard.
邪魔なの。あなたがいなければ将軍は出てくるはずなのに。なんでいるの？自重してよ。少し引っ込んでよ。あなたと話しても意味ないの。私はあなたと話したいんじゃない。出して。将軍を出しなさいよ。
Yua was acting weird. Was she getting impatient because Shogun wouldn't come out? Did that mean she was going to resort to more drastic measures? This wasn't what I had planned. I believed in her. I trusted that she wouldn't go berserk on me again. Was she about to betray me again? Am I kidding? I'm the only one who feels betrayed. I was forced to face reality. I decided to place my trust in Yua all on my own. She never asked me to. Not once. Had I just been naive? It was because I was an otaku freak and a shut-in too, wasn't it? I knew pretty much nothing about human interaction because of those things, so tricking me was like taking candy from a baby. If I was right about this, I'd been right about everything. Nothing good could come from 3D. It's time for me to become a real shut-in. This time, I locked myself in the 2D world.
見て。
Yua thrusted something in front of my face. It was a notebook of some kind.
妹の日記です。家に戻って買ってきたんです。これを読んであなたは知るべきです。妹は、みやちゃん。集団ライブが起きるもっと前からあなたに、いえ、将軍に狙われていたんです。
ever since before.
ストーカーされていたんですよ。だから集団ダイブは5人を殺すのが目的だったんじゃない。他の4人は巻き添え。狙いはミヤちゃん1人だった。
Well, that's just kind of,
そうでしょう。そうよね、将軍。答えて。出てきて答えなさい。
Yua's voice was getting more and more hysterical. My fear of her had come back full force. My heart was beating out of my chest. My entire body trembled. But even so, I still couldn't accept what Yua was accusing me of. It was just a bunch of delusions she'd come up with. Nothing but pure falsehoods. I'd never even met Yua's sister. I desperately shook my head from side to side. But she grabbed my head so tight, the pain kept me from moving very much.
まだ出てこないつもりですか。
Yua's face drew even closer, close enough to whisper in my ear. And then, she brought the diary even closer to my face.
ミヤちゃんの苦しみを見なさい。
Oh boy! Yep. Yua is the one who died that day. She forced me to look up. Then, still holding the diary with one hand, Yua started dexterously turning the pages. When I saw written there, it sent a chill down my spine. Dude, look at the cover! Look at the cover! Look at the cover! What is this? What the hell is this?
日記の最後のページ。ミヤが最後に書き残した。その誰の日付は9月6日。集団ダイブでミヤが殺された前日です。
将軍だ。あいつに思考盗撮されてたんだ。
思考盗撮って何？違うでしょ。違うわ。ストーカーされていたんです。将軍に、あなたに。
僕は将軍じゃ。
あなたの中にいる将軍にです。
だから言ってるじゃないか。将軍は他にいるんだ。
将軍は西条匠です。言い逃れしないで。
I mean, that statement wasn't wrong. Just not the Nishijo Takumi you're thinking of.
その目誰なの？あなたが昔書いた作文がその証拠です。他にもいくつもの状況証拠がある。あなたしか考えられないの。考えられないのよ。あなたじゃなきゃおかしい。妹はあなたに殺された。
It's not true. It's not true at all. I don't sleepwalk and I don't have multiple personalities either. Shogun does exist, but he isn't me. He's someone else, I swear.
どう思う？この日記を見てどう思う？ミヤを追い詰めて殺して満足？こんな日記を書かせるぐらい追い詰めて満足？どうしてミヤにこんなひどいことをしたの？どうしてミヤを殺したの？どうして？
ユナは間違ってる。
Everything you say is wrong.
間違ってるのはあなたよ。あなたは人を殺した。殺したじゃない。人殺し。
だってこの日記はユナの日記じゃないか。
なんです？
Yua looked puzzled. It stuck out to me like a sore thumb ever since I'd first seen it. What was written on the front cover. Yua's diary. At first, I thought I was just mistaken or something, but Yua had said exactly whose diary she thought it was.
妹の日記です。
If it were her sister's diary, shouldn't it have said Mia's diary?
これはイワの日記だ。表紙にそう書いてある。
何言ってるの？
You had deliberately avoided looking at the front cover.
これはミヤちゃんのよ。死んだミヤちゃんの日記。あなたに殺されたミヤちゃんの。ミヤちゃんのなのよ。ミヤちゃんが書いた。死ぬ前に書いたの。
だったら表紙を見てよ。
Terrified, I nervously pointed at the notebook. Without showing a hint of hesitation, Yua closed it and took a look at the cover. And when she did, she turned back toward me and said,
やっぱりミヤちゃんの日記だわ。
Huh? She must have seen it just now. There's no way she hadn't. Yua's diary was right there, written in bright red marker. So how had she...
これはミヤちゃんが書いた日記。私を騙そうとしたの。騙されるわけないでしょ。私はミヤちゃんとずっと一緒に育ってきたんだから。生まれてからずっと一緒だったんだから。あなたなんかよりずっと私の方がミヤちゃんのことを知ってる。知ってるの。
ユアには見えないの。はっきり書いてあるじゃないか。それはユアの日記。
Yua's hand suddenly shot up to her temples. Her face was warped in pain.
違う。この日記は私じゃなくてミヤちゃんが。私。西条君に自覚があるはずないから。あなたは DID 多重人格なんです。
君は誰だ？
私は私は
Could it be that I'd never been the one with DID? It'd been Yua all along?
楠木ミヤなんて実在するの？
Had the police ever officially announced the identities of the group dive victims? Since she was a minor, they would have just called her Girl A or something, right? Or
ユアに双子の妹なんて本当にいたの？
while it was certainly possible that someone named Kusunoki Miya had existed and had died in the group dive, it was also possible that they were completely unrelated to Kusunoki Yua, the person standing in front of me right now. It could have simply been someone with an extremely similar name. Well, we know that's not the case because of Bond's investigation.
いるわ。
Suddenly, Yua wrapped her hands around my neck. Her fingers were oh so slender, and yet they harbored a terrifying amount of strength within them. I couldn't breathe.
いたわよ。ミヤちゃんは確かにいた。はっきり覚えてるもの。
証明できるの？
Yua's grasp weakened.
自分は DID じゃないって証明できるの？楠木ミヤじゃないって証明できるの？
I, for one, couldn't prove that I wasn't my alter ego. After all, the only way to prove that I wasn't Shogun would have been for him to show up next to me.
できるわ。
Yua took her hands off my neck. She let the notebook fall to the floor.
ミヤちゃんにはほくろがあった。
Yua slowly began to remove her uniform's top.
左胸の下、そこにほくろがあった。私にはないほくろ。
She unbuttoned her blouse with one button at a time, her hands trembling impatiently as she did. But she didn't stop there. The mole couldn't have been anywhere else. It had to be on underboob. Had to be on the underboob. Couldn't have possibly been like on her shoulder or something. Nope. Had to be right there. Right there. The CG's existence is very necessary. Very necessary. But she didn't stop there. She went on to remove her bra, too. Her fairly voluptuous breasts were covered only by her hands. She fumbled around, searching for a certain spot on her skin. I searched, too, with my eyes, and just under her left breast was a mole.
あるよ。
どうして私にはほくろはないはずなのに。私誰？
Yua's face grew pale as a ghost, and her lips trembled in fear. Her eyes swam in place, gazing into the abyss as she wrapped her arms around herself. She didn't even care that she was still half naked.
私はユア。私はずっといい子で。ミヤちゃんはずっと悪い子で。私はずっといい子になりたくて。ミヤちゃんはユアちゃんが大好きで。ユアちゃんはミヤちゃんが心配で。
Her ramblings gradually turned even more incoherent. I was pretty freaked out, but I knew I couldn't just abandon her and make a run for it. I knew full well exactly what mental state she was in, because I, until only a moment ago, had been in the exact same one. From the moment Yua had told me I had DID, I'd been suffering from non-stop anxiety, instability. So I really did understand. I knew what it was like to feel like your entire existence was one step away from crumbling to dust. I didn't know if she was suffering from DID or if it was something else entirely. What I did know was that there was something wrong with her, and there always had been. I knew people could be two-faced, but she was far, far too good at it. It was still hard to believe that she'd been acting when we first met. The difference between her back then and when she snapped was like night and day. So much that I didn't even feel like the same person.
ユアは DID なんじゃ。
違う。ちゃんといた。ちゃんといたの。ミヤちゃんはちゃんといた。
She does exist. She's here right now. Still covering her breasts with one arm. You have fished for something in the top she'd just taken off. She then took out her phone, hit a few buttons, and showed it to me.
見て。ここにいるでしょ。私たちがいるでしょ。
あ、
Cute picture. She did exist. There were definitely two people on the screen there. And the image didn't look edited either. The two looked eerily similar in that picture. Although they were twins, the only difference was that one had glasses and the other didn't. Even their hairstyle was the same.
私はここにいる。
君はどっちなんだ。
私は
They even had the same hair clip. She pointed to the one on the left. Right at that moment, the floor started shaking violently. An earthquake? It's even bigger than the last one. I was struck with a violent ringing in my ears. It was such an intensely shrill, resonant sound. My head felt like it was about to burst open. Yua grabbed her head and fell to her knees. I wanted to do the same, but my hands were tied up, so I couldn't. It felt like my ears were being pierced by thousands upon thousands of needles. And then... I was hit by an enormous impact, and a blinding light dyed my vision completely white. Whoosh. Whoosh.
あの日、私たちは入れ替わった。
At the Shibuya McD, a large wave of students arrived as soon as evening hit. I could hear the high-pitched voices of high school girls joyfully chatting with one another. I took a moment to look out the window, and then I took out my phone. It was now 5:02 p.m. on September 7th, 2 minutes past the time she was supposed to be here. I took a bite out of my chicken sandwich, feeling a little bit annoyed.
ごめん、みやちゃん。待たせちゃった？
Yua-chan appeared, tray in hand, and sat down in front of me. I let out a small sigh.
うん、待った。
Well, there she is.
5分くらいおまけしてほしいな。あ、みやちゃんもチキンバーガー？私もだよ。
She pointed to the chicken sandwich on her tray. The two of us were twins, so it was only natural that we'd have the same preferences. She really didn't need to point out every little time that we had something in common, but she happily did so anyway.
みやちゃんとこうして渋谷で会うのって初めてだよね。
I didn't go to school in Shibuya, and the two of us saw each other at home all the time, so we just didn't have that many reasons or opportunities to meet up in Shibuya. That was all there was to it.
私にお願いしたいことって何？私にできることなら何でも言ってね。
I took the last bite of my chicken sandwich, sipped some of my iced tea, and then I leaned toward Yua-chan.
実はこれから人と会うんだけど。彼氏？そんなんじゃない。今まで一度も会ったことない人たち。たちって何人？4人かな。どういう関係なの？ネットで知り合った人。別にやましい関係とかじゃないから。アニメのファンサイトみたいな掲示板があるんだけど、そこで。へえ、私インターネットなんて全くやらないからよくわからないけど、そうやってネットで知り合うことってよくあるの？まあね。でもオフ会は私も初めてで。みやちゃん人見知りだもんね。人見知りじゃない。人に合わすのが苦手なだけ。そういうことにしておいてあげる。で、大丈夫なの？初めての人たち相手にうまく話せそう？本当は会おうと思ってたんだけど、今になってやっぱり怖くなっちゃったんだ。めんどくさくなっただけ。でもドタキャンするのも悪いし、だから私が代わりに行けばいいのね。
Yua-chan was really perceptive. She'd understood what I was trying to say before I even finished my sentence. Usually that was more annoying than it was helpful, but this time I was glad that I didn't have to explain everything.
そういうこと。お願いしていい？別にいいけど、みやちゃんはそれでいいの？友達を作れるチャンスなのに。そんな小学生みたいな扱いしないでよ。別に友達を作りたいわけじゃないし。もうみやちゃんは本当に意地っ張りなんだから。言ってくれる？うん、分かった。私は楠木みやになりきればいいのよね。
So they went into the bathroom for 10 minutes to change clothes.
そこまでしなくてもいいけど。どうせならとことんやった方が面白いじゃない。そうだ、制服も入れ替えようよ。なんでそんなにはしゃいでるの？みやちゃんから頼み事されるなんてめったにないでしょ。だから嬉しいの。ゆあちゃん、バカみたい。どうせバカなお姉さんですよーだ。ほら、そうと決まれば着替えちゃおうよ。
Poor girl, she seemed like such a sweetie. Yua-chan forcefully pulled me by the hand. Sorry, I'm trying my best. We went to the private bathroom, and after a couple of minutes, we'd swapped all clothing and personal effects.
みやちゃん、水泳の制服似合うね。 きっとお父さんやお母さんでもどっちがどっちなのか見分けつかないよ。あ、でもメガネかけてたら一発でバレちゃうかな。これも外して行くのはちょっと難しいかも。何も見えなくなっちゃう。初対面の相手なんだからここまでしなくてもよかったのに。もうまだ言ってるし、待ち合わせの時間そろそろなんでしょ。それまで打ち合わせしておこうよ。私アニメのことちっともわからないけど、何を話せばいいの？適当に相槌打ってればいいよ。どうせ一回こっきりしか会わない人たちなんだし。そんなことないよ。この出会いを通してお友達付き合いすることになるかもしれないでしょ。もしかしたら彼氏もできちゃうかも。興味ない。あるくせに。なかったら会う約束なんてしないもの。うるさいな。頑張って楠木美也はとってもいい子ですっていうのを印象つけてくるね。本当にそういうのいいってば。
If she did that, if she did that, it'd be even harder for me to go the second time. I just wasn't as sociable as she was.
それじゃ行ってくるね。よろしく。そこまで頑張らなくていいから。はいはい。じゃあね、みやちゃん。
Yua-chan smiled and waved goodbye, wearing my uniform, holding my bag, and then she disappeared into the crowds of Shibuya as none other than Kusunoki Miya. That had been the last time I'd ever seen Yua-chan. I then had gone home, waited for her to come back, only to see the case on the news. When I came to, my headache was so bad, it felt like it was splitting in two. The first thing I realized was that I was pinned under my bed. The second was that the bed had fallen on top of me. So not only was my head about to burst from the pain, but my back too was under the weight of the bed. The only thing I could move were my eyes, which allowed me to witness the sheer devastation of my room. Yua was slumped against the wall, staring off in a daze. She'd been half naked before the earthquake hit, but it seemed like she'd put her clothes back on. Before, she'd been completely topless while also keeping her glasses on, which had honestly brought some life back into me. But now her glasses had fallen to her feet. The lenses were cracked.
助けて。紐ほどいてよ。
It took nearly everything in me, but I managed to fight through the headache and call out to Yua. And with the most empty eyes, she looked at me.
思い出したの。
Literally, who cares? I don't give a shit about what you remember. Just untie me already. I can't move under this thing.
思い出したのよ。
Yua slowly got up and easily untied the tight knot. Almost too easily, in fact, considering how dark it was and how she wasn't wearing her glasses. Finally, a free man, I managed to slip out from under the bed. But that was about as far as I went. My head felt as if it was cracked open, just like it had during the previous earthquakes. Even standing up felt impossible, so I endured the pain on all fours.
ゆあちゃんだったのよ。
Yua was once again mumbling something in a low voice.
集団ダイブで死んだのはミヤじゃない。ゆあちゃんだった。
ユア、何を？
私はゆあじゃない。
That is a weird expression to have during a revelation like this.
A wry smile spread across Yua's lips.
私はミヤよ。自分をゆあちゃんだって思い込んでただけ。あの日私たちは入れ替わったの。それでゆあちゃんは死んだ。本当は私が死ぬはずだったのに。
Suddenly, the expression on Yua's face disappeared, complementing the empty eyes that had yet to leave her. And then she extended her hand toward me.
西条くん、もう将軍のことなんてどうでもよくなっちゃった。結局ユアちゃんは私が死なせたようなものだから。ねえ、一緒に来てほしい。
どこへ？
ユアちゃんが死んだ場所。一緒に来てくれるだけでいい。お願い。
I didn't know why exactly she was asking me this, but I had an idea. An idea that soon became a realization. Mia was planning to die. I had no idea whether or not I should stop her. It was probably too late for me to say anything that might reach her. And so, I took Mia's hand and went to pull myself up. I felt a stabbing pain in my head. I pictured my eyes being dyed a scarlet red. The throbbing pulsation of the blood vessels inside my head reverberated throughout my entire body. It hurt too much to move. I didn't have the strength.
歩ける？
Mia supported my body with her shoulder.
歩いてくれないと困るわ。一緒に来てほしいの。私を助けると思って。お願い。
With my body supported by Mia, the two of us began walking in the direction of Shibuya. Shibuya had transformed into a city of death.
And neither of them have D-swords.
Everywhere you looked, corpses were strewn across the ground. Some were covered in blood, some had their limbs severed, and some had their heads crushed. Not even a shred of human dignity could be seen in the absolute hellscape spread out before us. Not a single glimmer of the city's former glory remained. The only things it held were now were death, ash, and despair. Nothing more. Huge cracks tore through the roads, large scars indicative of how it could all come crashing down at any moment. Huge chunks of debris had fallen from the crumbling buildings, blocking our way. It was difficult to even walk in a straight line. But none of that was enough to make us lose focus of our goal. Mia and I marched on, completely disregarding the cries for help around us. Our destination was the building towering above in the distance, Cornelius Tower. The tower was still standing. The outer walls were crumbling in certain spots, but the structure itself had more or less tanked the earthquake. It still stood tall and it still stood straight and tall. As far as we could tell from the outside, it seemed that the lights were off on every floor. Maybe everyone had evacuated, leaving the buildings vacant and abandoned. Naturally, the lobby was completely empty. There didn't seem to be any electricity either, so the elevator didn't work. Our only option to get to the rooftop would be the emergency stairs. When the details behind the group dive case had appeared online, I'd done a little digging into the building. Cornelius Tower stood at 184 meters tall, with 41 floors above the ground. There was absolutely no way I could climb that many floors. That when I couldn't even walk straight with this headache. And yet, Mia kept on supporting me. Leaning on her, we climbed the stairs step by step, sweat dripping down our foreheads.
お父さんとお母さんは私が自分のことユアちゃんだって言い出して気を使ってくれたんだと思う。私をユアとして扱ってミアが死んだことにしたのかも。
I see. It probably broke her. She convinced herself she was Yua, and then they decided to go along with it for her sake.
She was talking to herself. I listened along in silence. Well, she probably didn't need me to listen. She was just talking aloud, and I just happened to be there.
I like how there's kind of a difference between the real Yua and Mia's voice, where Yua, even while pretending to, I'm sorry, Mia, even while under the identity of Yua, her voice just has a little bit. It's a little bit less like, it's sweet, but it's like not as sweet and cheerful as Yua's. The real Yua is just kind of constantly sweet and cheerful, while Mia is kind of more awkward. Mia is kind of awkward, and as a result, her voice is a little more subdued.
Well, she probably didn't need me to listen. She was just talking aloud, and I just happened to be there.
昔からそうだった。私は生意気な娘だったから。両親はいつも私を腫れ物にでも触るかのように扱ったわ。ミアを死んだことにするなんてね。親はユアちゃんよりミアに死んでほしかったのかもしれない。それも全部私のせいだけど。自分がユアちゃんだと思い込んだ私のせいよ。ユアちゃんが死んだみたいに私も死ねばいいのよ。
ユアはどんな人だったの？
憧れだった。羨ましかった。たまにイラついたりしたけど嫌いじゃなかった。むしろ大好きだった。ユアちゃんのこと大好きだった。私のことを分かってくれるたった一人のかけがえのない人だったもの。
We've had two kinds of sisterly love back to back here.
ユアちゃんが笑顔でいてくれれば私はどんなに辛いことがあっても嬉しかった。いつも私のことを心配してくれたわ。心配させてるのが申し訳なくて私はつい冷たく接してた。それなのにいつも優しくて。ユアちゃん
Mia kept climbing the stairs, tears gently streaming down her face. Were they tears of regret, tears of sorrow, or tears of guilt? That I couldn't tell. The wind was stronger than I thought it would be on the helipad. A panorama of Shibuya's nightscape spread out right before our eyes, but now its former brilliance was nowhere to be found. The city had been fully engulfed in darkness. One could just barely make out landmarks like Tokyo Tower, Roppongi Bills, or other buildings situated in Shinjuku in the distance. The Shibuya beneath our feet was veiled in complete and utter silence. There was very little light, allowing darkness complete reign over the ruined city. If it were noon, then Shibuya's new form would be nothing less than stupefying.
西条くん、もしよかったら。
Mia gently let me go, retracting the arm that had been supporting me. I immediately sank down to the ground, not a single ounce of energy left in my legs.
一緒に飛んでくれない？
Mia stared deep into the dark night. Fierce gusts of wind sent her long hair fluttering in the sky, hiding her expression from view. That was when I realized Mia had come here to jump, to follow in her sister's footsteps. With that in mind, my answer was clear.
やだね。僕は死にたくない。なんで僕を監禁した女と心中しなくちゃいけないんだ。
そう言うと思った。
One step at a time, Mia walked toward the edge of the heliport. facing the strong wind head on.
そうそう。西条くんと予約しに行ったセイラちゃんのフィギュア。
Suddenly, she stopped and turned around.
ちゃんと買ったのよ。とても可愛くてセクシーだね。すっかり気に入っちゃって、私の部屋の机の上に飾ってあるの。
A transient smile spread over Mia's lips. Of all times for her to have said that. Why now?
Buy icon right here.
そんなこと言っても僕は君に同情しない。
Okay, Ike.
同情なんて求めてないわ。それじゃさよなら西条くん。私を殺した人、私もゆあちゃんのところに行くね。
What Nishijo-kun had just said was very reasonable. It was strange, though. It made me feel lonely. There was this heart-rending pain in my chest. In the end, I had never been afforded the opportunity to confirm whether or not he was Shogun. Maybe he had been telling the truth, and I was the one who'd gotten it all wrong. But even if I wasn't wrong, there was no point in holding a grudge against him now. If only I hadn't asked Yua-chan to switch places with me back then. If only I had just gone to the offline meet myself, then Yua-chan would still be alive. Yua-chan hadn't deserved to die. She'd had so many friends. Our parents had loved her more than anything. She'd been the smartest, most beautiful girl I'd ever met. And yet, she had died anyway. Kusunoki Yua had died anyway. And when she had, Kusunoki Miya had disappeared along with her. She'd vanished into thin air, becoming a ghost. That was the choice I made back then. I could no longer tell whether I was alive or dead. All I knew was that Yua-chan wasn't here anymore, so I'd rather be dead. I stood at the edge of the helipad, where Yua-chan and the other four had jumped off that night. Looking down made me feel dizzy. The whole nightscape was pitch black. All the lights in the city had gone out. And yet, even in that darkness, I could still tell just how high up I really was. I wondered how Yua-chan had felt when she'd jump off here. She had probably been terrified. I'm sorry, Yua-chan. I'm sorry you had to go through something so terrible because of me. I'll be going too, very soon. I will take the pain that you endured, the pain that I alone was supposed to feel, and engrave it into my body, Yua-chan. I took a deep breath. My heart and mind were at peace. I wasn't afraid of dying. I spread my wings. My arms lay in the empty air. I closed my eyes, and then I stepped forward into the bottomless abyss before me. There was nothing there to support me anymore. I fell. My whole world turned upside down. There was nothing left to chain me back. Even though I was in free fall, it almost felt like I was floating amid the rumbling of the wind. The ground was rushing toward me. The same asphalt that Yua-chan had crashed into 2 months back. The hardened tar that had crushed her bones, ruptured her organs, and sprayed her blood and gray matter across itself. I don't want to die! Just a moment ago, I hadn't been afraid to die, but the second I had lost control of my body, I had become overcome with a tremendous sense of dread. I don't want to die! Even if Yua-chan had died, I still wanted to live. This was just my survival instinct taking over. I screamed. I screamed from the bottom of my soul. I desperately reached out my hand to the distant night sky above me. I knew there was no one that could grab onto it, but I reached out all the same. There was no end to my screams. I pleaded, I don't want to die. But nobody heard me. Nobody grabbed my hand. I simply fell, with the earth coming closer and closer. It felt my body shatter into a million pieces, but that feeling had disappeared soon after.
So first we have Takumi constantly trying to kill himself and going back to the same place he was. And now we have this. Interesting.
When I came to, I found myself collapsed on the roof of Cornelius Tower. Nishijo-kun was in front of me. He still wasn't looking at me, but he was reaching his hand out even so. I definitely jumped. No doubt about it. I had definitely taken that nearly 180-meter dive and smashed right into the ground. But now, I just sat there, staring at Nishijo-kun's hand, utterly dumbfounded. I even forgot to wipe away the tears streaming down my face.
気が済んだ。
Nishijo-kun's words were blunt and curt.
君に死なれるのは困るんだ。まるで僕が突き落としたみたいじゃないか。僕は殺人犯扱いされたくないね。
私落ちたのに自分で飛び降りたのに。
妄想でも見てたんじゃない？
A delusion. You're telling me all those sensations, all that pain, was just a delusion. That's impossible. It felt so real.
ねえ、西条くん、ゆあちゃんはあんな痛い思いをして死んだんだね。なのに私、ゆあちゃんと同じ痛みを味わおうとしたのに、私は死にたくないって思っちゃったの。本来死ぬのは私だったのに、死にたくないって。
I doubt she wanted to either.
もう飛べない。あの痛みを知ってしまったら、もう怖くて飛べない。
You aren't obligated to die.
私、どうすればいいのか。
Only one who deserves to die in this situation is Mamoru Suwa.
今ので君は一度死んだ。ユアの痛みを知ったならもうそれでいいじゃないか。これからはもう一度楠木宮として一から生きていけばいいと思う。ユアの分まで。
ありがとう。ありがとう。
He almost looks handsome from this view. Almost.
I reached for the hand that he had extended out to me, and I took it. It was so very, very warm. I could feel his body heat through his palm. A warmth so comforting, I felt my hand stop shaking.
Well, damn, that was a ride. Can't say I haven't seen a similar plot line before, but, yeah. Pretty interesting. And, yeah, just adds a lot more context to her character and makes me like her more now. Yep, probably probably the best route, probably the best ending so far besides ending A. I prefer ending A, but like that kind of just has a lot more going on. It was kind of meant to be an ending to the game, so naturally I kind of prefer it. This was more a moment about character development, developing Yua here. I'm honestly really glad that they didn't end it with like a kiss or anything. Like, they imply that maybe there can be romance in the future, but like, with the situation as it is, it would be incredibly forced for them to just end it with a relationship. Moon and Sun reached Yua's ending. Thank you, Steam, for not calling it Mia's ending. But, yeah, Sun and Moon is kind of a fitting one for this, huh? But, yeah. It would feel kind of unfitting because, like, Mia has, like, screwed up hard in how she's treated Takumi. She's done a lot of horrible things to him, and, of course, she just had a whole mental breakdown here, nearly killed herself. Seems to be implied that Takumi deluded her into being saved. Or maybe it was their combined delusion. Whatever the case, it was probably enough to save her. But, yeah. They do imply that maybe there can be something there at the end by showing how she feels his warmth in that moment. But, well, hopefully in the future of that route, they go find Suwa, kick his ass, and beat him into a bloodier pulp than Yua ever was. He deserves it. And meanwhile, I'm just gonna headcanon that Bond is completely and totally fine, you guys. Just he figured out that Suwa was up to some really sussy crap and stayed the hell away from him. Anyways, yep. I'll play the next route later today as well. I just got some things to take care of. But yep. That was a refreshing thing to have after the constant barrage of suffering I've had over the past 24, 48 hours maybe now. I don't know. But, yep. I will see you guys next time.